So I guess I'm gonna throw my hat in the ring of a better phrase, I guess. So DC versus Marvel. See, you can have individual characters, but ultimately the question you're asking is if DC as a whole fought Marvel as a whole, who would win? Well, it's kind of a stomp on DC's side. Like they have casual characters that will shit on even the gods of DC. I mean, of Marvel. For instance, you really have to wank the one above all just to be universal. I mean, yeah, you did a lot of shit, but I mean, he only transcend like he's still confined to his comic book page, and in many things he's the author, but the author inside of the comic that's writing the fiction. So it's like it's different than the actual dead ass author. Arthur, it's a fictional Arthur that represents that. So one, even if they did, like, say for instance, he did come into the real world and meet Arthur. Yeah, well, that's only one transcendent, infinite realm. For instance, in DC they have a thing called the God Spear, and all the multiverses in that God Spear. Shit. So basically, it gets infinitely bigger and starts transcending itself infinitely. The the God Spear, the part where like Genesis and stuff like that is where it's it's where Darkseid and anybody who's on his side lives, and then you have the opposite side, Genesis. But they exist beyond like platonic concepts. They are living platonic concepts, and if you know anything about Plato and those that type of scaling, you will know that Platonic concepts, usually in their nature, are universal, meaning that they're beyond time and space and dimensions and limitations. And if you're beyond the concept or you are a concept, you're pretty much universal. And see, that itself is even weaker because like it scales infinitely above that. There's another spirit above that, which is basically the source wall. And the source wall, even beings like Darkseid has been trapped there before. Then you can go on to the ultimate, one of the ultimate characters. This is actually the page that the comic and all the stories are ever written on. Like the whole omniverse and everything is written on the mind over monitor void. Is basically the comic book page. It is the page. Every story that ever existed is on that page, and even still, you have characters that scale above that. For instance, in the Doom Patrol universe, there are like in the Doom Patrol verse, like everything on the Overvoid, like the Overvoid is just that, a simple flat piece of paper, and they all would scale infinitely above that flat piece of paper and anything in it. So basically they were outerverse, like they're so beyond outerversal that it's fucking ridiculous. Like, not, see, you go from Darkseid being outerversal, then the source wall and anything at that level being universal, plus or infinitely beyond it, and then you go even further to where all that shit was just on a piece of paper and all that other stuff is just dots on it, like inconceivable specs. And then you got like dead ass Retcon Corporation, the characters in control, like in the anonymous or anonymous, however you say it, are a group of god tier characters that are watching and reading the comics, and if they get bored, then basically everything goes away. But Retcon Corporation is the one in charge of trying to like keep them entertained, and they're the reason we have DC continuity errors and retcons and multiversal restarts and new gods and old gods. They're the ones coming up with a lot of this shit, and they're like, they'll tell you, like, they could be like, oh, this Superman don't count no more. And then you got Milkman Man, who scales above that. He's a Superman, like he was a story of a Superman that like makes you drink his plot altering milk or whatever the fuck, and he basically just negged all their shit and was like really god tier. Retcon Corporation had no effect over him. And then you got like another character, I forget his name off top, but basically he's like a Superman Jesus character who even Retcon Corporation is like, yeah, that man right there is the truth. But yeah, it's like, it's crazy because the scaling is so out there that even if you say the one above all is like outerversal with Wank and maybe even a little bit above, he would still get shit stomped by even basic humans from the Doom Patrol verse. Like, he'd get stomped by like anybody who tried. I mean, they're strong characters in Marvel. Don't get me wrong. Like, Constantine is a pretty powerful beast, but he's not like infinite transcendences above Outerversal like certain characters are in DC. Like that aren't even really the guys. Like the presence, the god of the verse in DC and the source or whatever, they don't even scale above a lot of characters at like in Doom Patrol or at those hypes of power. But yeah, so even if you try to use the whole "but he's God" argument, like yeah, but God doesn't even scale high in this verse. He's not truly all powerful like a God is supposed to be. And all powerful only means like so far. Like how all powerful was he? All powerful Outerversal? Was he all powerful infinitely Outerversal? Like it's a different. It's, like omnipresence really don't mean anything when you're fighting, making the gods fight. So I guess that's been my opinion on like DC versus Marvel, and this is just educational video for a whole lot of people.